I think they're right. I think Mr. Trump instigated an insurrection, because he said, unless you fight like H, you will not have a country. Now, did he go down there? No, but I don't think that's the point. And I noticed the other four contenders, at least three of them, they said, let the people decide. To me, it's like, wait a minute, what does your Constitution say? He incited a riot. He had no business doing that. He was to do a peaceful transfer of power. You know, when you lose 5 lives in that event, and all the people that were injured, and the millions of dollars, and the real tarnish on our capital in respect for it, why can't we just go by what's on the, in our Constitution?
It's so wrong. It's so wrong. I hope the Supreme Court shuts that down right away. I just don't see anything good coming from it, and I hope they stop it. I mean, okay, if he loses in the election, fine, but don't keep him from it.
It's detestable. They had no right to do that. He's not been convicted of anything, and no, the Supreme Court of the United States hopefully will take care of that. If Donald Trump is elected, I will vote for him, but otherwise, it's between Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley for me.
Well, I think certainly you're self-evident. You saw it all. Now, whether the 14th Amendment applies, I'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection. There's no question about it. None. Zero. And he seems to be doubling down on about everything. Anyway, I've got to go do this.
Hey, are we expecting a hostage deal anytime soon?
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, where?
No, I was talking about.
You're talking about we're pushing it. There's no expectation at this point, but we are pushing.
Can you address the prisoner exchange with Venezuela, sir?
Yeah, can I do that after this event? Okay. All right. But it looks good. It looks like Maduro so far is keeping his commitment on a free election. It ain't done yet. Got a long way to go, but it's good so far.
And your reaction to 20,000 dead in Gaza, that death toll reached today? Did you reach today?
It's tragic.
Thank you, sir. Everybody. Thank you.
I think this is the correct interpretation of the 14th Amendment. I don't think this is a complete slam dunk, in part because we've just never been here before. We've never had a president engage in this type of behavior, and we don't have case law that gives us specific guidance. Now, if you look at the Constitution, if you look at the face of it, I think this is the better reading. But you do have to conclude there was an insurrection, that Trump gave aid or comfort to those who engaged in it, and that this provision does apply to the presidency. I don't think the ruling will stand, but not because the Colorado Supreme Court judges just can't deal with it. I think the decision will be reversed because I think the US Supreme Court will look at this case, and whether or not it's a decision on procedural issues or on the merits, the substance, I think the US Supreme Court will reverse. This is a U.S. Supreme Court that remembers its crisis of legitimacy after Bush v. Gore, when it looked like they were the ones to decide a presidential election. In that case, we'd already voted. Here, we haven't even voted yet. I don't think the U.S. Supreme Court wants it to look like they are taking our right to vote away before we even weigh in on who the next president will be. Now, what the vote split is and exactly on what legal question the Supreme Court rules, I don't know, but I really think they will reverse here. This is a legal question that shouldn't have anything to do with whether or not a Republican president or a Democratic president appointed a judge. It should really just be looking at that clause in the Constitution and deciding what it means. But this is a very conservative court, and I think that they will tend towards a conservative decision. Now, could we see a surprise where maybe this is 5-4 instead of 6-3? Absolutely. Could we see maybe one conservative justice join the liberals because he or she wants to make it look like they are not, in fact, a political actor? And yes, that is possible. But in the end, if we look at this court's decisions, I think we will see the U.S. Supreme Court reverse. I think other states are going to wait for guidance from the U.S. Supreme Court. And it, of course, depends on when and how the U.S. Supreme Court rules. But my guess is that other states are kind of in a holding pattern right now. I think the political response really depends on the legal response here. I think we're really waiting for the Supreme Court to act, unless there is a statewide official in another state that wants to say, look at what Colorado did, we're going to follow suit. That, in my mind, would be more of a political calculation, because legally speaking, we're waiting for the highest court in the land to provide some sort of guidance here. I think a lot of people view this legal decision along partisan lines, because I think a lot of people view every legal decision along partisan lines. And people aren't to be blamed for viewing things through a partisan lens. I think that's just where we are right now. But virtually all big legal decisions with big political consequences are viewed based on your party registration, not necessarily your legal ideology.